Hi, I'm Haley E.R. Cooper.
And I'm J. Cameron Cooper, and we're the co-artistic directors of Strange Bird Immersive.
And today we want to talk to you about Make It Immersive, turning walls into worlds. Now, you probably hear the word immersion a lot. We actually consider escape rooms to be a subset of a genre that we call immersive entertainment. It's a thing that people are really excited to do, to be able to be at the center of an adventure with the world all around them. And what we're going to do for you today is give you a hard definition of what it is to make something immersive, and also give you the tools in order to make your own adventures as rich as possible.
At Strange Bird, we believe in immersion so much we put it in our name as a promise to our guests of what to expect when they walk through our doors. But what is immersion like?
We're going to give you an example of something that we can guarantee you've experienced. You're watching a movie. Let's get specific, Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. As you're watching this film, the couch you're on magically disappears. The walls, your worries about the real world all disappear, and for 3 hours you are suspended in belief, like you are in Middle-earth alongside Frodo fighting against the ring wraiths, charging down the Pelennor fields. In all of these ways, you are there until the credits roll, and that's the moment that your world comes back. And until then, you are fully immersed.
But what happens if we leave that immersion? What can the movie do to kick us out? Now, let's go back in the movie and to the Battle of Pelennor Fields. And the Witch King, the Nazgul, in his wonderful giant spiky helmet, is bearing down on Theoden, about to raise his sword. And all of a sudden, a cell phone rings. And it's not your cell phone, it's the Witch King's cell phone. And he pulls it out of his billowing robes from somewhere and answers it. And he says, "Hey boss, what's up?" Yeah, I'm just about to kill these guys. It'll be all done before night." "Yeah, okay, great, bye." And you're going to blink really hard at this. And you're going to wonder what has happened to this movie. And all of a sudden, your belief in the world has evaporated. Because everything so far has told us there are no cell phones in Middle-earth. And so this is a carefully constructed world that has had a problem with it.
Sound familiar? Some of you may remember the strange affair of the Starbucks coffee cup appearing in Game of Thrones. Now this is an example of something that accidentally made it into the world. It's even stranger if the director actually wanted the Starbucks coffee cup to be there. Now let's go to a different way in which there is no immersion, or the players are kicked out of their world of suspended belief. And that is, imagine for a moment that instead of the Lord of the Rings, you have 3 hours of the Helm's Deep battle sequence. It's pure battle, horses charging each other, bodies flying, explosions. Of course, we've got explosions. But you don't know who these people are. There's no suspended dialogue or scenes between characters. You don't know what happened before this battle, and you don't even get to see what happens afterwards. What happens, what are the consequences of one side being victorious or another. Now, this is a movie that you've had to imagine. Nobody's actually experienced this. Even Michael Bay, for as much as we love to rag on him, doesn't do this. It's important to make your world make sense and not just deliver, it's almost like a director said, "Oh, I heard you like battle sequences, so that's what I'm going to make. I'm going to make a movie that's purely that." But none of that makes any sense. You've got to invest in something larger than that. Now let's look at what the magic of immersive entertainment can be. All of a sudden, you're not passively on the couch watching the world. You are in it. It is all around you. You are on Weathertop with the Nazgul raising their swords against you. You are on top of Treebeard in the last march of the Ents, and you are receiving the bows of the Gondorians at the end to thank you for what you have done. This is extraordinarily exciting. Humans long for adventure, to be heroes. And to be the star of our own film is a thing that we have longed for as long as there has been filmmaking. And that's what's so exciting about immersive entertainment, is that we get to do that. We get to deliver that. If we are committed to giving our guests that sort of experience.
And that's a really popular sort of experience. The cinematic adventure is what we promise so often on our websites. And when you really deliver it, people get really excited. Our guests always ask, when's the next game? I'm certain they would turn right around and book it. And if you have more than one, that's a great thing. So immersion is a great vehicle towards extended word of mouth and player engagement.
So we're going to let you in on a little secret here at Strange Bird. There's no foam here. There's no pneumatics. There's no team of professional set designers. Our room is not fancy. Now the workmanship is good and it looks like a believable space, but you're not looking at a room full of all the Hollywood cinematic bells and whistles, things going off, all those continuous wow moments that I hear a lot of designers are trying to strive for as a way to become immersive. Rather than investing in this over-the-top set design, we decided instead to invest in the reality of the space. We decided to commit. And that's our challenge to you, is see how far you can commit to creating a world with a logic behind it. And we think that that is going to be a more exciting level of immersion where people can really deeply engage with your world rather than just be standing outside of it and say, well, isn't this a really well decorated game that happens to look a lot like an Egyptian tomb? That's the difference that we're talking about, is are you in the tomb actually as the adventurer, or are you looking at something that is extraordinarily well decorated?
And so what we want to deliver for you today is a tool to help you create an immersive world. And really all this takes is imagination. It doesn't take a whole lot of money. In this case, sense doesn't cost a lot of sense.
And that tool is the 6 questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how. And we want you to apply these questions to everything, literally everything. Everything in your room is a designable surface, an opportunity to plunge your players deeper into an exciting imaginary world to really lift their adventure and drive it forward.
But this doesn't mean that the players need to know the answer to every question explicitly. You as the designer need to know this in order to create a cohesive, layered, rich world. But the players don't need to know everything you know. So there's no need for a pre-game info dump, as it's called. And we don't need long letters in the middle of the game explaining everything that's going on here. When things are real, the players will feel it.
So let's go into the questions. We've actually got 2 different who's. The first one is going to be the players.
Now, the players can either be themselves or they can be given a role to play. If you give the players a role, you have to be careful about it because this can create a certain amount of tension between who they're supposed to be and who they are. If they're supposed to be an expert in the field that they've been put into, they're going to find themselves not knowing things that they think that they should know. If they're supposed to be an archaeologist in a place that they've been studying, it's going to be hard for them to accept that they don't know anything here. If the players are allowed to be themselves, well, not knowing what they're up to is going to be much more natural.
And then our second who is, of course, the characters. You need to have rich characters, people with names, at least one, but probably more, because the world is inhabited by people. Even if you're dealing with a spaceship, the world is inhabited by aliens. What's their logic? Your characters are going to be the grounding for a lot of your answers to these questions. And it's going to be rewarding to the players too, because escape rooms are kind of fun because we have full permission to be as nosy as we wish to be in somebody else's space. Now, if this is a space without a character, it's a lot less interesting. So make your characters a fun discovery that enriches your world.
Next up, we have what. What is happening is the question that you should be asking when someone is in your space. You need to have a sense of the event that's going on here. And there's often more than one event involved. There's very commonly an inciting event, which is the event that gets you in trouble. And then you're in a different sort of what, as in what's going on now that we're stuck in this room. You can have many what's happenings throughout your game. When you come to individual objects, the question you need to be asking is, what is this thing? When players come across an object, they need to have some sort of context for it. It's much easier for them to understand the presence of a computer than the presence of an oddly glowing thing. Now, there's circumstances for oddly glowing things, but you need to have an answer for it nonetheless.
When? This is actually a challenging question, I think. Quite often when I'm playing a game, it's unclear to me am I time traveling? Am I a historic individual actually in the original era that I'm playing in? Or is this just a space that is decorated to look old and I happen to actually be approaching it from a modern point of view? Or am I time traveling into the future? Or am I a person from the future? The players need to understand when they are in order to have their imagination accessed. So choose the year for your space and stick to it. And same goes for your objects. You need to decide when they were made. The objects exist nowadays that are old too. So that's a great way to add layers of reality to your space. So be sure that you're clear with your objects as well.
Now, where is a question that the escape rooms usually have a pretty good handle on. In fact, the games are usually named to answer this question. If you are in a game called The Prison Cell, you're usually going to be in a prison cell. But you should always go deeper into the where. It's not just a prison cell, it's a prison cell in some particular prison in some particular part of the world. And if you know that, you'll get a lot more relevant details into it.
Which brings us to our favorite question, why? On the meta level, you want to ask, why do I care? The player. Give the player a reason to care, which brings us to our beginnings and our endings. In the beginning, you're needing to establish why the player should care. That spurs them to action, and it promises them some sort of reward at the end. And that reward that they receive needs to happen inside of the world. That reward can't happen outside of the imaginative play space, or it's not exciting. It's like ripping somebody off the top of the mountain right after they've taken the final steps to achieve the pinnacle, as it were. So if you do need to have a game master who lets people inside of your game and helps people take the team photo and celebrate the win afterwards, think of those not as beginnings and endings, but rather as prologues and epilogues, things that are happening that book frame the experience that are outside of the world, but do not replace the beginning and ending that needs to happen inside of the world to deliver that real immersion experience.
The classic escape room plot has a really good answer to why, by the way. The why is to escape. If you're trapped, you want to get out. That gives you good motivation. And when you get free, you understand what you've done. But as the industry goes into more complex scenarios, you need to give more thought to why we should care and why the end is satisfying.
Be sure also that you're asking, why is this here with every single object? It got here for a reason. Why does this object even exist? And that's going to plunge you again into your character, into the history of the object, really developing the story behind it. Which brings us to a question that I always ask while designing, which is this a thing a human would do? And you got a problem if the answer is no. If the answer is just no, I just kind of like this puzzle. You gotta go deeper than that. So essentially, if you ask this, you're turning this guy, the puzzle designer, with all of his lovely designs and spreadsheets and such, into this person who is a lot more exciting and engaging and somebody that I want to get to know. And you're rewarding the players for their curiosity by giving them secret knowledge of character, secret knowledge of the world. So be sure that you're asking that question and really grounding everything in that logic of how a human would approach the world.
Now, Hal usually has a pretty straightforward answer, and that's puzzles! Because the puzzles are the structure of an escape game, they're also the beats that get us through the story. Puzzles are the mechanism that we operate in order to escape from the trap that we're in. So we'll take a look at this at a macro level. So let's take a look at these questions at work. And we'll apply it at the level of an entire experience. In this case, our work, The Man from Beyond.
The who of the players. You get to play yourself, and we only ask really one magic leap from you, one magic if, which is that you really want to attend a Houdini seance. Besides that, you get to answer and interact with the character exactly as you would. You have your own voice, your own imagination, and we engage with you precisely on those terms. And then players leave having had a real experience as themselves.
The other who is the characters. And we have a couple main characters. The first being our hostess, Madame Daphne, who has in essence created this whole room from her collection, which explains a lot of things that are here. Our other big character, of course, is the ghost of Harry Houdini, and the historical Houdini as well. Houdini is also really rather present in the room. But besides these two, we have a host of other minor characters as well, who show up as authors of various puzzles, or in letters, or otherwise...
Other secrets.
Yeah,
I don't want to tell.
Yeah, other secret ways. In fact, we have, at final count, I think, 11 characters that show up in the game. 13 if you include 2 animals.
What is happening? On the website, we sell, or we make it clear that you're going to be attending a Houdini seance, and that is, in fact, what happens in the first stage of the experience. What is happening does change, of course, when the seance takes a dramatic turn, and then it changes again and changes again. In fact, we have a 5-act structure to really be driving that adventure forward. When? We make it clear that players are engaging in the present day and age. Madame Daphne makes jokes about Instagram. She even has a rule about cell phones. So even though the space has a vintage dressing and some of the objects inside of it are in fact antiques, you understand that you're engaging with it in the here and now.
But the when we come to individual objects in the room, sometimes leads us to objects that are old. Many things are made by the historic Harry Houdini and are either actual antiques or reproduction antiques. And that puts them all in 1920, give or take 10 years. So it's important that all of these are made with period-appropriate materials and techniques. In fact, there's not a single visible Phillips head screw on any of our objects that are supposed to be old, because Phillips head screws didn't really become commonplace until after World War II. So if people saw these objects and they had modern screws on them, it just wouldn't feel right. You would think that there was something off about this, that this is obviously a fake. We also use other appropriate materials, brass and wood, and anything that's magic, of course, is completely invisible because there's no technology allowed in something from 1920.
Where are we? It's made very clear to the players. They actually enter the Strange Bird Immersive lobby, which is a very strange place telling its own story. And they're told to go to this door. And outside this door is a sign that says Madame Daphne's Tarot Reading Room and Seance Parlor, Suite 313. And when they open the door, they have no doubt in their mind that that is exactly where they are. Why? Our why for The Man from Beyond is... we promised them some interesting stakes. We put our stakes in our characters, and we deliver on that. In fact, I get a sense from a lot of enthusiasts that they get really cagey, really careful about not spoiling the ending for other people. They say, you just got to go experience it yourself.
And the how, of course, is mostly puzzles. Puzzles are what drive the game forward, and that's why we're really careful to make them all part of the story. There's, of course, a little bit of live acting and special effects and such as well.
Now let's look at the questions on the micro level.
And for this, we'll take a look at a specific object in our room, which is one of our puzzles. We call it the music box puzzle because it's a box that plays music.
For this puzzle, the who is made very explicit. We have a Maker's Mark tag on it. And in fact, we have this tag throughout a number of different objects around the room, so that it's very clear that this was a thing that Houdini in life was tinkering with. He had a little magic workshop, and he was working on these magical novelties. The what is this object? We've got, a knob that makes music play. We've got an engraving of a dog looking at a cat who's looking at a bird, and inside the window you see these animals chasing each other. And there's this real playful nature to this box that suggests it might be a child's toy of some kind. And then, of course, what else is happening is we've got a 3-digit lock here. How very curious. Another important fact.
As well as a plate that dedicates this object to a particular person.
The when for this object is again made clear by the materials used, no slotted screws. Where is it is Madame Daphne's Seance Parlor. This is part of her Houdini collection, as she has explained to you, she has inherited. And the why, of course, we've got this character's name. And as you uncover the secrets of the disc box, you discover that this was a gift from Houdini to his niece on a special occasion. And the code happens to be something that is meaningful, that is actually another gift from him to her. So it has that emotional relationship to it, just from this one object. And then, of course, the how is the aha moment that we are not going to reveal here.
So this brings us to the construction of puzzles. This is the hierarchy of puzzle needs. This was a concept that Haley invented for a post in our company blog, Immersology. And it's kind of based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs for humans.
Yeah.
But
this is for puzzle designers.
But yeah, this is for puzzle designers and what a particular puzzle fulfills by its existence. So at the base of the pyramid, we have the random puzzle. This is the thing that's required for being in a game. The game is made up of puzzles, so it has to be there.
And this is perfectly fine. You can be just at this level and people are still going to have fun because puzzles are fun in and of themselves. But we're in the immersive entertainment industry and we're aiming for something a little bit higher, so let's go deeper.
So next step up on the pyramid is the on-theme puzzle. And this is a puzzle that looks like it belongs where it is. It fulfills the needs of the setting. But at the top of the pyramid, we have what we like to call the immersive puzzle, which fulfills the needs of the story. It's a puzzle that makes so much sense in its setting, both physically and as part of the story, that the game really wouldn't be the same without it.
And yeah, you might hear this term mimetic puzzle, or you might hear the word diegetic puzzle. And these are actually all attempting to say the same thing, which we are saying here is an immersive puzzle. We are deciding to use this term because we think it sets the goal of what it is that this puzzle is really doing. Most of your immersion, your players are primarily engaged with your puzzles in your world. So use them as your primary tool for immersion.
And so that's a little bit abstract. Let's make it more concrete. And in order to do that, we're going to need a specific game. So here's your game. You're in the basket of a hot air balloon, and you need to be able to safely land this balloon, or otherwise you're in trouble. And what sort of puzzles might we find in the basket of a hot air balloon? Well, at the level of a random puzzle, there's a plywood maze attached to the wall of the hot air balloon basket, and on the other wall is a lockbox. And the maze captures a particular key, and you have to work it out. And this is, mazes are great. We love mazes. We always fight about who gets to do them when we encounter one in a game.
I usually win.
Haley usually wins. But it's really not the sort of thing that you would see in a hot air balloon at all. There's no reason for it to be there. But if we move on to an on-theme version of this puzzle, we make it into a map. A map is a thing that you would find in a hot air balloon because they need to know where they're going. And if this map is on top of the maze and the key has a little hot air balloon keychain, it becomes a nice metaphor for navigating the balloon to safety. And this looks more like it should be there, but really it's still not a thing that a human would do. It's not something that you'd find in an actual hot air balloon, even one as contrived as the one we're going to have to make it a game.
So now let's try to make the same puzzle immersive. Let's say you've got one magic if, which is that you've signed up for this hot air balloon ride, and your pilot, Cliff Blowhard, is really tired of all of his friends making fun of him for being a hot air balloon pilot. He says the job is hard, and they laugh at him and say, oh yeah, you're really using your college degree, Cliff. And he has just snapped today. He's done with it. He wants to prove them wrong once and for all, that piloting a hot air balloon is not something a layperson can do. So he's parachuted out and left you to prove him right or wrong, as it were. Something's not quite right with Cliff. He kind of seems like maybe a little bit of a disorganized fellow. So like the keys to the ignition are in a bit of a jumble. So you actually have to, in order to get the keys, undo it through a line of rope and wicker basket and untangle that throughout the hot air balloon basket in order to get the ignition on, turn on the burner, and land yourselves to the promised land of safety.
And so this is basically exactly the same puzzle. It's still a maze, but we've arranged it such that it works with our character and it works with our story, and it looks pretty much like something that you might actually encounter in a balloon.
And when you're creating immersive puzzles, you can approach it two different ways. You can come up with a really cool puzzle idea and then find a way to make it make sense inside of the world that you're building. Or you could look at the world that you have and try to think what would happen, what would this character make? And then from there come out a really cool puzzle idea. Either direction works, and we work from both directions. So now that you have these questions, we want you to go deeper with the details. Go as deep as you can. Here's a letter that appears in Man from Beyond. I've completely changed the text, so don't read it, just look at it. There are no spoilers here. It's a white sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11, font is Times New Roman, somebody printed this out, put it inside of the room. You're already scanning it for clues. Now we have a cream sheet of paper. It's in a handwriting font. It's the exact same text. But as you can see, it's taking on a lot more life. It's taking on something of a soul. And the difference between this letter and that letter is nothing. It's literally nothing. It's maybe 2 minutes of time. It's selecting your handwriting font, to be honest. Now let's give you a look of what would appear inside of Man from Beyond. So here we have a piece of paper. It's folded in half as if it's been saved. It's on a specialty sheet of paper, cream colored. It's actually been wetted, which is a fun technique to try and make paper crisper. give it that kind of aged weathering effect. And it's actually a prescription notepad. And the story goes that this Charles S. Kennedy was Houdini's surgeon a couple of days before he died. And you get the sense that this character was probably just scrambling for any kind of paper. This is not usually the kind of letterhead that you would write to your wife on. Asking for any kind of paper that was available. He grabbed the fat pencil that was nearby and scribbled this final missive to his wife.
So once you've created your immersive world, you will occasionally hear people accusing you of breaking the immersion. You'll hear things like, hey Houdini, we found your keys. Or they may tell you afterwards, you might want to hide your sound system a little better.
We found your CD player.
And in fact, the CD player pictured here is supposed to be there. It belongs to Madame Daphne, and it's what she uses to make the music during her seance. In fact, it's playing a CD with the seance music on it. But players found this and thought they might have got one over on us, which wasn't the case. And we wanted to make sure that they understood that what they were finding was a character moment and not
a coffee cup moment.
Yeah, and that they were not discovering something that we didn't hide well.
So what we did is we bought a little CD case, put in a new piece of note paper. We invented a new character to enter the room who happened to be Madame Daphne's friend who had done the sound mixtape for her. And the little note says, hope this mix makes your seance extra spooky. And just that little extra prop made all of those, questions for the players that we were hearing in the overhead disappear. And they understood that this was a fun character moment, that it was a thing that they were meant to discover, and that it reveals something extra about the character of Madame Daphne. So that's a fantastic example of the process here. Is we designed a thing, we observed and realized that it wasn't working. It wasn't an immersive moment. And then we decided to fix it, and the fix was pretty cheap and pretty fast. And then we observed again, and we discovered that the fix was working and that it was permanent.
And so here's your map to immersive gold. And the first step on the map is to imagine within your means. Because as much as we talk about it being a product of design and imagination, you also have to be able to execute what you've designed to a level high enough that people will believe that that's what's happening. If you imagine a spaceship, for example, it really does need to be made all out of metal and plastic. There's usually very little plywood on a spacecraft.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to do a spaceship.
No, we will probably never do a spaceship because it's not within our construction wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So if you have the budget in the workshop to build a spaceship, knock it out. But if you only have the budget to build an office because you rented an office, do that and make it a really compelling office. There's lots of plots that can take place within an office that will be entirely immersive.
And then the next step is to commit to the questions in every single detail, remembering that everything is a designable surface, and don't let that commitment slack for a moment. And then you want to observe and fix, make sure that that the immersion is having the right kind of impact on the players, and that there isn't anything that is essentially kicking them out, causing them to just kind of stand apart from the world and not be engaged with it. And if you do all of these things, then you arrive at this really golden place where adults can play. For children, imaginative play is extraordinarily easy. You give them a paper hat and they are a captain of a pirate ship. Adults aren't so easy. They require commitment from the designers. They require that human logic and a compelling why in order for them to really want to be safe and be ready to play along. And that is the goal. So, I bet you thought we were giving a talk about immersion, and we were, but surprise, a little more than that, because you've been writing stories.
So once you have the answers to all these questions, you really can't help but have micro stories all over the place. And hopefully when you answer some of the big questions, you also have a bigger story for the whole thing.
If you've basically got 3 what's happenings, you've got a beginning, middle, and end, and boom, you're gold. And we think that if you've got immersion, just take it a little step up, and then you've got a story. And that's going to be a very exciting place for your players indeed. If you do these things, if you really aim to be immersive, you're going to be talked about. I think that this is achieving something that people really, really want. It's personal to them. It's a special memory. It's more than a game. It's more than decor as well. It is a world, and they're eager to talk about it and drag their friends to come play along.
And once you have the answers to all these big questions, you might find yourself wanting to name your game after the answer to more than just where. You might be naming it after the character or about the what.
The Office can become the secret of Dr. Stevenson. The hot air balloon becomes the last ride of Cliff Blowhard.
And the seance parlor might become the man from beyond.
So if you have the opportunity to travel anytime soon, visit us here in Houston when we reopen for the Man from Beyond and come see what our style of immersion is like. And if not, probably when this time airs, we're going to have 2 virtual experiences that are available. One of them is a Zoom tarot card reading with Madame Daphne, so you get a taste of the Man from Beyond world. And the other one is a special project that we're working on that will probably have debuted by the time you see this. Or you can also visit us at immersology.com, which is available and free and offers a wealth of other ideas and things that we're learning that I've put forward in order to help other immersive designers create this magical sort of experience.
And so I'm James Cameron Cooper.
And I'm Haley E.R. Cooper.
And we're Strange Bird Immersive. And if you're watching this live, we'll be transitioning into questions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm David.
And I'm Lisa. And we're from RoomEscapeArtist.com, the hosts of Recon, the Reality Escape Convention.
This was one of 15 talks that we put on at Recon Global this year, a digital convention for the escape room and immersive gaming industries, for players and for owners and everyone in between. They gathered on August 23rd and 24th of 2020.
We're releasing all 15 of these talks about once a week over the coming months so that they'll be accessible to you. To find them, you subscribe here to the Room Escape Artist YouTube channel. And if you're interested in more information about Recon, go to realityescapecon.com and subscribe to the newsletter.
We put on Recon completely for free because we didn't want there to be financial barriers. We are, however, supported by our Patreons, and so we're thankful to those who are already supporting us. And if you have the ability to support us right now, and you want to, and you like what we're doing, we would really appreciate it. People who back us get early access to these videos along with a whole bunch of other perks.
That is the Room Escape Artist Patreon page. And if you're enjoying these videos and this industry, please support the creators in the space. Play their games in person or virtually. They're doing so many innovative things right now, and we hope that you'll enjoy those.
Thank you very much. We'll see you on the next video.